The Galactic Empire had conquered the planet Carrot and spread its dominion across the universe. They were the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever seen. Their fleets surged through starry seas, conquering entire systems, and no one dared to oppose them. But on this day, everything was different. When the Empire's fleets crossed the border of the solar system, they had no idea that humanity was preparing a response from the shadows of space, a response they could never have anticipated. At the forefront of this response was Captain Lyra, one of the most influential commanders of the human fleet. She was known for her wise tactics and charismatic leadership style. Her crew adored her, but she remained an enigma. No one truly knew what she was thinking until she revealed it. And today, she had a plan that would shake the galaxy to its core. Lyra had spent the last few years meticulously uniting people from the farthest colonies, those who believed only in total success. Her fleet was not only vast, but also remarkably well-equipped. She had developed weapons that surpassed the technological standards of the Galactic Empire, and she had crafted the perfect blend of military precision and creative tactics. But what she truly wanted to show the Empire was that humanity could not be underestimated. "Captain, the enemy fleet has entered the solar system," reported the technical officer. "They're moving fast, and their weapons are armed." "Good," Lyra replied, her eyes gleaming. "We've waited a long time for this moment. Prepare the fleet, but not as they expect. We'll play by our own rules." As Lyra issued her final orders, she thought of the secret plan she had devised. She had led humanity to a moment of unity, allowing them to pool all their resources into a single, overwhelming force. The Empire had underestimated humanity, but they had no idea that this small, spirited race was capable of creating something as dangerous as this fleet. When the Empire's fleet approached, the human ships suddenly flared to life, not just in size and number, but in an invisible connection that seemed to bind them together. An unshakable determination permeated the entire fleet. Communication within the human fleet was like a hum of intentions and goals, encompassing not just galactic ambitions, but deeply rooted desires. They didn't just want victory. They wanted to seize a galaxy with fire that could not be extinguished. "They've crossed our borders," Lyra whispered into the microphone, her voice calm but dangerous. "Now they will pay." The Empire's fleet noticed a change, not just in the speed with which the human ships shifted positions, but in the way the human fleet presented itself. Their ships moved as if in a dance, perfectly in harmony. The Empire knew something unusual was coming, but they couldn't comprehend what it was. "What is this?" asked a high-ranking Imperial officer, detecting a strange signal from the human ships. "They're responding on an unknown frequency." "It's human communication," said another officer, his voice tinged with nervousness. "They've outsmarted us." The Imperial fleet began to panic as the human ships attacked with a speed and precision they had never anticipated. But they didn't know that humanity, in a secret moment of collaboration, had developed a device capable of disrupting the Empire's entire communication system. What they had considered their greatest weapon had suddenly become useless. The first human attacks were precise. Laser beams pierced the armor of enemy ships, and their weapon systems failed. But Lyra knew they had more tricks up their sleeve. She didn't just want victory. She wanted to show the Empire that humanity would retaliate in a completely new way. "Every person here has something to prove," she told her crew, "and they will do it in their own way. We are not just a fleet, we are a revolution." The battle continued, but the real shock came when Lyra unveiled a completely new strategy. She activated a secret project, a kind of decoy attack that not only paralyzed the Empire's fleet weapons, but also affected their psyche. Imperial officers began to doubt themselves, wondering if the humans knew more than they had ever imagined. Lyra smiled. They wanted to destroy humanity. They wanted to crush us. But they didn't understand that humanity's true strength lies not in weapons, but in our unshakable will and our ability to unite in every sense. The first strike against the Empire's flagship was powerful, but the Empire's response was instantaneous. A massive explosion tore through the space between the fleets. But Lyra knew that in this moment, they needed more than just technology. They needed a position that the Galactic Empire could never understand. The battle raged on, with the forces of humanity and the Empire clashing like two magnets drawn together. But Lyra felt that something else was at play on the battlefield, something that could become the deciding factor. She leaned back in her chair, watching the battlefield and thinking of the countless hours of preparation, of all the unconventional methods she had used to deceive the Empire. Because what many didn't know was that humanity's true trick wasn't just in their weapons, but in their ability to play with thoughts, expectations, and above all, the impressions of their opponents. "They won't defeat us," Lyra said quietly, almost to herself, watching the frantic movements on the screens. "If they think they understand us, and especially if they believe we're doing the same as them." Her words struck her crew like a sudden blow. No one said a word in that moment. Everyone knew that Lyra had something grand in mind, a plan that went far beyond what the Empire had ever expected. Lyra simply smiled mysteriously, running her fingers over the control panel. On the screen, a signal appeared, a signal that would confuse the entire Imperial fleet. It was humanity's secret trump card. "Prepare yourselves," Lyra said, her voice suddenly much more serious. "This will be a little unconventional." Meanwhile, a strange silence fell over the Imperial fleet. Their officers exchanged glances, uncertainty evident in their eyes. They had never before faced a human fleet that was so unpredictable. They had always considered humans weak, even somewhat primitive, and their armed forces had never been taken seriously. But now they knew they were wrong. Humanity had something strange and incredibly effective, something the Empire had never seen before: the ability to turn the tide, to deceive the enemy, and to fight with a combination of humor and chaos so overwhelming that it could throw even the mightiest off balance. Lyra decided to use humanity's greatest unknown, humor, specifically the way they constantly challenged and mocked the Empire. She knew that the enemy's officers and generals couldn't resist their own arrogance. They could handle humanity's technology, weapons, and tactical moves, but they couldn't handle how humans drove their enemies mad. "They want to crush us," Lyra thought. "I'll make them crush themselves." Lyra activated the signal, and suddenly, a strange message appeared on the screens of the Imperial fleet. It was an image of a laughing groundhog, waving cheerfully at the camera, accompanied by the text, "Humanity has come to play." The caption beneath the message read simply but boldly, "Enjoy your break." The effect was immediate. Imperial officers stared at their screens, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. "What is this?" exclaimed a high-ranking officer, completely baffled. "Why are we being attacked by a damn groundhog?" "This is some kind of trick," muttered another. "But what?" Humanity's enemies were utterly confused. They had underestimated humanity, facing it with almost childlike innocence. And yet, what they saw was far from harmless. Lyra knew that the Imperial fleet wanted to control everything, but she had mastered the art of chaos. What looked like a joke was actually a sophisticated attack on the enemy's psyche, an attack they couldn't predict because nothing frightened the Galactic Empire more than the thought that their opponents weren't afraid to mock them. The human fleet began its real attack, but in a completely new way. Instead of the conventional warfare the Empire expected, humanity chose chaos and distraction. Their ships appeared and disappeared repeatedly, only to suddenly reappear in a completely different location, as it defied the laws of space travel. The Empire panicked. Their ships nearly collided, desperately trying to maintain control. It seemed as though the humans had turned the entire battlefield into a giant game of confusion. "They're toying with us," said an Imperial officer who had truly lost control. "This isn't war, it's a game." "Yes," Lyra said, reading the updates in real time. "And the joke's on you." The human ships now danced in space with such precision and grace that the Imperial fleet was left in disarray. Their movements were so fluid, as if guided by an invisible rhythm, as if they were speaking a language the Empire didn't know and would never understand. Again and again, new absurd messages appeared on the screens. Each new taunt, each new provocation. "Welcome to the club," suddenly appeared on the screen of one of the Imperial ships. "Enjoy your loss." It was absolute madness, and that was precisely the point. The Empire tried to respond, to load weapons, to coordinate their ships, but it was too late. Humanity had long outsmarted them. The Empire's strength was no longer one of order and precision. It was one of confusion, a game that humanity had mastered so skillfully. "They're just too good," whispered an Imperial officer, realizing the scale of their defeat. "We've lost." But before he could fully admit it, the screen before him suddenly went dark. Humanity had prepared its next surprise. Lyra stood in her command center, her smile unwavering. This was far from over. Not for her, not for her team, and not for the Empire. They had more up their sleeve than just groundhogs and games. Humanity had come not just to survive, but to win, and they would have the last word. The Galactic Empire's fleet was in shock. Their ships flailed as if they had lost their minds. On the screens, new absurd messages flashed, each one simultaneously confusing and infuriating the Empire. Lyra knew the real fun was just beginning. She leaned back in her chair and watched as the human fleet continued to move through space, each movement a mystery, each target a joke, each attack a farce that drew the Empire deeper into its own confusion. Lyra controlled the situation, but she wasn't satisfied. She wanted more. She didn't just want to defeat the Empire. She wanted to make it destroy itself. And she had all the means to do it. The Empire would fall into the trap of humanity's ancient art of play. And with each new trick, the enemy would sink deeper into its own trap. "Wait until they see what's next," Lyra said, activating another plan. This time, she would use the enemy's mistakes against them. Humanity had never been afraid to outwit its enemies with a mix of chaos and humor, and now it was time to apply the same medicine to the Empire. With another smile, Lyra activated the next trick, and the Imperial fleet was closer to collapse than ever before. But she knew this was only the beginning. There was still so much more that humanity could offer, and the Empire didn't even realize what was up against. The situation continued to escalate as Imperial ships flailed about, as if caught in a dance they had never ordered. Lyra could barely contain her grin. She had never thought a battle could be this fun, but the human fleet was a true work of art in the realm of high strategy. They used every tool at their disposal, from confusing radio messages to tactical deceptions that drew the Empire deeper into its own chaos. Every time an Imperial commander tried to give clear orders, he was immediately interrupted by one of these crazy messages. "Are you sure you're choosing the right course?" Asked a message that appeared on all Imperial communication channels simultaneously. "Maybe you should take a break. You look a little tense." Chaos reigned in the enemy fleet's control centers. "What's wrong with you?" shouted one commander, trying to coordinate his ships. "Stop mocking us." But humanity had long won the game. They used their jokes as weapons, each word a targeted blow that undermined the morale of the Imperial troops. Lyra couldn't hold back her laughter when she saw another Imperial ship try to follow one of the human fleets, only to get stuck in an absurd circular motion. "Are you doing a loop-de-loop?" Came a message from another human fleet pilot. "Looks like it's going to take a while." It was as if the war had turned into a completely new game. Imperial officers tried to focus, but every time they tried to formulate a clear strategy, they fell into yet another trap set by humanity. Lyra knew that humanity's true advantage lay in its ability to think, improvise, and, above all, use humor to throw its opponents off balance. And they kept going. Imperial ships were completely subjected to confusion when another Imperial ship tried to attack from the flank, but disappeared into a dense fog of bright lights and strange sounds. "Sorry, I can't talk to you right now. My ship decided to throw a party," came the message from the human fleet. Humanity simply kept doing what it loved. For the Empire, it was a nightmare battle in which they could never find the right moment to attack, as they were always thrown off by a new absurd idea. But Lyra had prepared something even greater. As she watched the Empire sink deeper into its own confusion, she activated another surprise. Suddenly, the human ships began to move as if in a matrix, every step, every turn precisely calculated, as if they were performing a giant galactic dance that completely baffled the Empire. "What's happening?" asked one of the Imperial commanders as his own ship stopped following their preset course. They had lost contact with their own fleet, trying to follow the movements of the human ships. "This dance is so complex that we can't even understand it with our best artificial intelligence." The message became a nightmare for the Imperial fleet. They tried to respond, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of clever and cunning tricks from the humans. Amidst all these chaotic yet fascinating maneuvers, Lyra felt like a chess player leading her opponent into an impossible endgame. She knew she needed just one unexpected move to completely disarm the Empire. But it wouldn't happen with weapons. It would happen with yet another trick that would not only secure victory, but also amaze the entire universe in a way that history would never forget. Ready for the finale? Lyra asked her deputy, who was already grinning widely. She told him her plan, and he was just as excited as she was. "Time to make the final move," she said with a hint of delight. Then she activated humanity's newest toy, an artificial intelligence that not only controlled the movements of the ships, but could perfectly mimic human humor. Immediately, it began speaking on the Imperial ship's frequencies, but instead of a direct challenge, a voice that sounded like a poorly synchronized movie said, "I thought I could give you a fight, but it looks like you're doing better." This was a moment when the Imperial fleet should have realized that they weren't fighting an ordinary threat. They were fighting universal chaos created by humanity itself. They weren't just moving forward physically. They were using their minds as weapons. And this was something the Empire had never considered possible. They were defeated not just physically, but in the most witty way imaginable. "This is only the beginning," Lyra said as she sat back in her chair and looked ahead. Even before she planned her next move, she and her team knew that the Empire was already in its final stages of laughter. And that was the moment when humanity truly took control of the game.